How is it going, you lovely lot? And happy Christmas. Today is episode number 41 of Park to Prem. Can't encourage you enough. If you didn't see yesterday's video, probably should go watch it before this one. That was your Christmas Eve treat. Today, we are dreaming of a white Christmas. The dream is to sign back Andy White. Today's a transfer special. Is it going to be a white Christmas? The odds are stacked against us. We might just have to try and make it happen, though. Let's run the intro and get straight into things. First and foremost, a happy holidays. I hope you're enjoying some time with the family. Potentially you're watching this in the evening, having settled down. Everyone else has fallen asleep. You've got some time to yourself to indulge in some Football Manager action. Welcome back, of course. Last episode, in somewhat spectacular fashion, we managed to secure a spot in the Premier League. It was not comfy, it was not cozy, it was not pleasant until we knew that we were up, but we made it by the skin of our teeth. And as for the playoffs, as you can see, Birmingham actually beat Bournemouth on penalties. After the bottling that Bournemouth did last episode, they didn't even go up. Now, to kick things off today, we are going to do a very small season review. I know what you guys like. You're here for transfers. Fully appreciate that. There's lots of money to spend today, but I think it's worth reflecting on the season that was. And well, first and foremost, I think one thing that goes without saying is the signings that we made this year really made a difference. Some of the players that we signed, I did not anticipate to perform like they did. Amari Hutchinson, 18 assists, obviously initially signed on a loan deal to play left wing back. We're signing him permanently for £3.3 million, which now looks like an absolute bargain. The 25-year-old, for me, the signing of the year. He had a part in the middle of the year where he was awful, but end of last episode, he stepped up in those final few games, put in some big performances, was a massive difference maker. Elsewhere, of course, we had the likes of Sheldon and Rashid Mohammed join us, both from Reading. 30 goals combined for them, not too bad. Kevin Pinto emerged with some crucial assists at the end of the year. Of course, he was signed for £23,000. That, my friends, is a bargain. And whilst I'm a little bit concerned that Haig Dolk didn't really develop over the course of this year, despite the fact he came in with loads of fanfare around his potential, there wasn't really a movement in terms of his ability. There is no doubting the fact that he was a key part of our team in the defensive mid position. The 20-year-old, we have to keep some faith with, I think. Now, naturally, with all those signings, especially the ones made at the start of last year, I never envisaged a world where we were going to be playing in the Premier League this year. It's safe to say that the squad needs massive reinforcements. It's going to need a fair few signings, I think, this year. But at the same time, I don't want to lose the identity of the squad. In terms of the finances, of course, everything rocketed up as is to be expected with the Championship. It's going to go to a whole nother level once we reach the Premier League. In terms of the team of the year, I don't think there's too many shocks in here, really. Sheldon and White leading the line. Like I mentioned, Andy White, I am desperate to sign. He has a non-promotion release clause with Burnley of £29 million, which is now active. Crucially, though, when we sold him to Burnley, we made an agreement that 50% of his next transfer would go to us. What that means is I have the potential to sign Andy White for that non-promotion release clause for £29 million. I will get half of that money back as soon as the deal's confirmed. The only stumbling block, potentially, is his wages, because he did recently sign a deal with Burnley, and it's hidden behind my head here. Take my word for it. He's on £81,000 a week. But when you look at the fact he won Fans Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, was our top goal scorer, I really feel like I've got to try and make a signing happen. His 24 goals for us was a record league number of goals in a season for us. And whilst it didn't make him top goal scorer in the Championship, you can see alongside Amari Hutchinson and Rashid Mohammed, we had some of the best performing players in various categories in the league this year. On a nice little note as well, we did achieve the Overachievers Award for the FA Cup. I say award. There's no award. You just get a little footnote in the FA Cup. But it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. Look, biggest overachievers, it was us. Of course, we reached the quarterfinals of the FA Cup last year. Didn't beat Liverpool, but that result there did give me a little bit of optimism that maybe going into the Premier League, we don't have to tear everything down. And yet, you might be able to spot from the squad that I have here, I have started to cut things down and start to plan ahead for the upcoming year. I am currently planning without Andy White. I think the reality is I need to get to the 31st of May, see what potential free transfers and stuff are out there. In terms of kind of a blocked out 11, these are 7 players that I think are potentially good enough in the Premier League. There's a couple of players like Ramsey whose transfer values I look at and think maybe I've got to cash in on them. But on the whole, I think centre-backs, a goalkeeper, a right wing-back would be the primary aim. And whilst our overall balance doesn't look all that good, we are going to have lots and lots and lots of money coming in due to the fact we're going to be playing in the Premier League. Our transfer budget sits at £26 million. Our wage budget is absolutely stupendous. I think the first course of action, like I said, get to the end of May. Then we're going to start planning transfers. And yeah, Operation Sign Andy White will be a go. Okay, so it is now the 31st of May in game. I have just taken it upon myself to use the squad planner to try and figure out what the hell is the situation going into this year. This is kind of the blocked out team in terms of players who I think could be okay-ish enough for the Premier League. I mean, look, the reality is last year's media prediction going into the Championship was 21st. It did update to kind of mid-table-ish. Our squad is not prepared for the Premier League. In a weird way, I feel like we're like the Blackpool of this year. Remember when Blackpool went up to the Premier League and they kind of relied on Charlie Addons to try and carry them? I feel like we're going to be in a not dissimilar situation this year. In terms of centre-backs, I've kind of already talked about the fact I think we're going to have to find some new defenders and a new goalkeeper. I don't want to tear it all down completely, and of our current options, I think George Edmondson is just comfortably our best centre-back option. Good in the air, not the worst pace in the world either. I feel like he is, well, maybe not quite a Premier League quality, but of our defenders, he is the best. As much as I like someone like JJ, I do worry that he might get bullied in the air a little bit. And whilst in an emergency, he probably could play centre-back for us. I think his role will probably be more of a squad role this year. In terms of the rest of the squad depth, though, I think if we sign Andy White, that would give me a little bit more depth in the striking area. At the moment, I've just got Sheldon and Mohamed listed down here. We have actually got other striking options out there, but the reality is behind Sheldon and Mohamed, the drop-off is absolutely massive. And with respect to players like even Dane Scarlett, Corey Gerrard, these are not players I ever really signed thinking, I'm going to use them in the Premier League. And certainly in the case of someone like Scarlett, given his valuation, I think it's probably going to be worth trying to cash in on him. Even someone like Corey Gerrard really hasn't shown that much development since we signed him up for £500,000 from Exeter. Gave him a couple of games in the Championship, didn't really perform. I think as much as I want to sign lots of new players, a big focus this year has to be trying to flip on some of the players who, well, with the situation we now find ourselves in, where at the very least I want to be a yo-yoing Premier League Championship club, these players that I have, like Gerrard, like Scarlett, they're just not of the level required. In terms of defensive mids and wing-backs, I don't think it's going to be a focus this year. I think we're okay. I guess the one caveat would be maybe if the right bid came in for Ajaria, we would look to cash in on him. I look at that valuation of 22 to 30 million pounds. I don't feel like he's anywhere kind of close to that level, sadly. And whilst, you know what, £26 million looks like a really healthy transfer budget, given the fact I could be signing upwards of 10 players, might need more than that. Especially because half of my current transfer budget is potentially going on Andy White. Now, one of the reasons I came back on the 31st of March was so that I could look to potentially approach to sign some players that were interested in transfer. Of course, because we've not hit the season tick-over date, our club reputation isn't actually that of a Premier League team. Not that it's going to be that of a Premier League team once the season ticks over anyway. I was kind of looking at some of the players available here, just to give you an idea of the kind of players who I can approach to sign on free transfers. Paddy Lane, rated highly by our staff, but I look at him, don't necessarily think he's an upgrade on what we've got before. Brad Young was just relegated with Wigan from the Championship. You might remember he was their key player back when we were fighting Wigan in League One. I look at him, he's just not the level of goalkeeper I feel like we should be aiming for this year. Of course, if I look at English players with contracts that are expiring that aren't interested in joining, there's a few more players like James Maddison who we could potentially sign up. I have a sneaking suspicion the £210,000 is going to be the stumbling block. I mean, the issue I've got here is our wage budget sits at £376,000. Which, I'll be honest, it sounds like a lot in isolation until you realise that for a squad of 25 players, excluding youth players that also contribute to that wage budget, that leaves me with an average salary of £15,000. And when you look at someone like Andy White, who I want to sign, and spoilers, I've chatted with his agent, he wants £73,000, I could be spending a lot of that wage budget very quickly. Naturally, that money ain't going to last that long if I do go through and sign Andy White. My main concern here is I'm going to spend all my transfer budget. Even though I get half the transfer budget back, £14 million to fill all the gaps I've shown in the squad just doesn't feel like enough. But yeah, it's Christmas. I want Andy White. Does Andy White want me? He wants to be a star player, improve the facilities. I think I would just have to do that. I'd probably be looking to improve the facilities anyway. He's got a match highest earner clause, a sell-on fee percentage. He's locked in release clauses that I can't get rid of. And the most I could offer is 67,000 unless I adjust the budget and cut into the money I have. I love Andy White, but if I look at the team in its current situation, I don't need starting strikers necessarily. I need some depth in the striking area for sure, but given all the other needs I have in the squad, also the fact he wants nearly £90,000, I can't spend a quarter of my wage budget on one player who has a release clause that actually, it wasn't even that big of a release clause, was it? 42 million to teams in the Champions League. If we come down, which we could still get relegated, I lose him for 25 million. I love this man. I want to pull off a Christmas miracle. I can't do it. I mean, here's the thing. If someone else buys him, I'll receive £14 million. And whilst I'd be losing out on getting him, £14 million as a sell-on, that would be like an extra 50% on top of the transfer budget, potentially. I'll tell you what, some Andy White fans are going to be really upset. I'm sad too. It just doesn't work. I feel like what probably makes the most sense to do now is look at centre-backs and look at goalkeepers and stuff. I have had a little look quickly through players with contract status expired. There's no one that exciting here. I mean, Ryan Brewster's available. Good little striker. He's currently on £50,000 a week. Really, with our current wage structure, where our highest earner, I think, will be Amari Hutchinson once he officially signs for us on £15,000. And given that wage stuff I mentioned earlier, where the average earning should really be around £15,000, like 80,000 plus for Andy White is just stupid. The only way I could ever really sign Andy White is if I was to loan him. And they're never loaning him up a division, are they? I am actually wondering if Anson's available in goal. I love Caleb Anson. I feel like he is like an unsung minor hero in this save game. I'm looking at the goalkeepers listed here. Jamie Cumming is very high on this list. He is not worth 17 to 26 million, but I did just spot a wild Caleb Anson who is available. We have already got Josh Griffiths joining us and Harry Evans as well. And whilst I like these two goalkeepers, I think it's safe to say that Caleb Anson would just be a level above. I know he's not as well-rounded, hasn't got as good mentals, but I feel like Anson has attributes I really value, especially in the shot-stopping and aerial department. He's not quick off his line. He's been here before as well. And that value, 5.8 million, is reasonable. I'm going to get a bit cheeky here. I'm going to try and use some installments. I feel like installments are the name of the game. Even if we go up to obviously the Premier League like we have and come back down immediately, we will get parachute payments for a few years, which will help me acclimatise. The parachute payments can also help with these additional fees, which if we stay in the Premier League, won't be a problem whatsoever. If we were to get relegated, they might be a little bit painful, but we could definitely survive. They think that offer's an acceptable. I'll rejig the offer slightly. I'll offer them £7 million in installments. We'll see what they say. I kind of want to wait for the season tick-over date in June, and yeah, I'm just wondering, if there's players here who are good, maybe I should be going in for them. Are any of these players good? Jimmy J. Morgan? I mean, this guy for Forest is not a bad little player. Forest have just been relegated from the Premier League. Granted, he didn't even start a game for them in the Premier League. So would he be a good signing for me? Probably not. I knew that centre-backs were going to be high on our shopping list. Daniel Hoey here plays for Bristol City. He looks like a very good little centre-back. Our scouts rate him really highly. He kind of reminds me of George Edmondson in a weird way. It's a similar mould of player, isn't it? Edmondson's got a little bit of better ability with the ball at his feet, but Hoey, very good physicals, very good mentals. He's 21 as well. My staff feel like he's got some good potential. Of all the centre-backs that were just on the list there, he was kind of the one that stood out. The 21-year-old, just in and amongst all these older players, looks good. 18 jumping reach is very fun. He's nearly 2 metres tall. How much do they want for him, I wonder? 7.2 to 11 million. His wage demands 13 to 18,000 pounds. Few release clauses potentially in there. That doesn't seem that unreasonable. Similar to Anson, I feel like I've got to try and make this deal happen with some installments if I can, just to save some pennies. I'll offer them 8.5 million, I think, as a starting point, but 6.5 of that's going to be in installments. Okay, well, maybe I should have negotiated that more, but he's a really good centre-back. Like, really, really good. I knew going into this preseason, goalkeeper, centre-backs, wing-backs, probably the order of the day. I think because Hoey's not as good with the ball at his feet, we'd probably play Edmondson wide and play Hoey in the middle. Still need a left-footed centre-back and potentially a right wing-back option. A lot of that hinges on what is the plan with Ajaria. He's unhappy at the moment. He wants a new contract, but his wage demands are absolutely outrageous. There has been a little bit of interest in him over the last 12 months. His value is very high. I do wonder if some players' values will go up once we have kind of promotion confirmed and are up in the Premier League. That'll be something certainly to keep an eye on. You might have noticed as well, this first team is a little on the shorter side. I've actually demoted a load of our players down to the under-21s. Some of these have contracts expiring at the end of the year. Others, like Zakor, I kind of just need to sell. He's got 2 years left on his current deal. He's valued at 1.4 plus million. I'm going to offer him out for 1 million and transfer list him, I think. Connor Pye's got his contract expiring at the end of this year. His wage demands are just silly. He's not a Premier League quality player. He'll be leaving. Similar story with Joe Taylor as well. Good player, but not Premier League quality and doesn't want to sign a new deal. Contract expiring. George Marsh still has 1 year left on his contract with us. Some people have said he looks like Tom FM, and I can't really unsee it anymore. But whilst we did use him sparingly over the course of the last year, he is definitely not good enough for where our team is at right now. Kind of just want to get him gone if we can. Also, it pains me to do it. I'm going to just demote Andy White here. I need to plan for life without Andy. Moving him out of the first team is the first step towards that. Okay, our offer has been accepted for Hoey. He wants regular starter after 1 year, then important player. I mean, I can definitely give him that. I can probably give him a better deal than that. He has got some release clauses in here that I'm going to remove. And a yearly wage rise. He wants a 4-year deal, which is promising. I'm looking at his wage demands that he's got here after a certain number of games. I'm kind of willing to offer him that off the rip. Like I said, the average salary for a first-team player needs to be around £15,000. We'll offer him £13,000. And wowzer, he has bumped a lot of stuff up there, kind of painfully. I'm going to remove the minimum release clause, obviously. He's not as cheap as I want him to be. Let's put it that way. Maybe I should have renegotiated all those bits and bobs that were in the contract, but I felt like it was a more beneficial deal for him if I gave him lots more money. I mean, his wages, £25,000. That is pretty reasonable for a Premier League player. He's 21 with 5-star potential. Good championship quality, but obviously he'd be making that step up with us. Played 31 games in the championship for the year just gone. He is really good. Is he that good? I mean, we're agreeing to sign him for not all that much money up front. I'm going to up his signing on fee and lower his actual wage to £20,000. I've just quickly done the maths in my head. I've cut his wages by £4,000 a week, which means over the course of like the average year, he is going to earn how much less? And ironically, now using the calculator app on my phone to work out if this is a good deal. £4,000 over the full term of his contract is £800,000. I'm giving him $1 million up front, which is about the £800,000 that he's missing out on, but I'm giving it him sooner. The reason for doing this is, if I can keep the wages down a little bit lower, it might influence other players currently in the squad or that I want to sign to not up their wages too drastically. I got the calculator app out and it has failed me. Daniel Hoey has turned us down. I'm kind of surprised by that. I thought that was quite a fair contract offer, but he didn't agree. It pains me to say it as I hit continue here. I do think the right decision was to not sign Andy White. I'm not even sure if the sell-on agreement that we have with him would go into the transfer budget in the same way that like a transfer fee received does. I'm not actually sure about that. And if that was the case, I'd have no money to sign him, which would be a problem. We've had our bid of £7 million for Anton accepted. He only wants to be a backup. His wage demands are very, very reasonable, which is nice. He wants a yearly wage rise. I'm going to remove that, but I'll give him a 5-year deal. Caleb, 5-year deal, £12,500. Let's shake on it. Oh, my word. Caleb Anson, he wants to be here. He was a really solid goalkeeper for us in League One. He actually played a few games for Norwich last year in the Championship, kept 2 clean sheets as well. I feel like we found ourselves a goalkeeper, and is a goalkeeper we know. I'm just looking through the players that we've got scouted here. There's some random like Chelsea youngsters that I'm being recommended. Are these guys any good? I mean, the valuation probably is a problem on someone like Usman here. I mean, Sunday Egby, more affordable at Chelsea, also nowhere near as good. I think crucially for us, I could do with selling some players. I'm going to struggle to do that till the transfer window opens, I think. And on top of that, until we get officially promoted in kind of, I think it's like the 23rd or 24th of June. It's kind of that mid-month point. The reputation won't update. Once we're officially in-game a Premier League club, might just offer up a few more signing options, but one signing done already. Caleb Anson is joining us. It's £7 million. It's a new record fee. It's not cheap. We're a Premier League club. I need a goalkeeper. I love the fact he relishes important matches, and crucially, it's only £1 million off this year's transfer budget, which I think is going to be very, very important that we make our budget stretch as far as possible. I was just looking here for players who are aged at most 21, sorted by ability. Of course, Daniel Hoey, we've burnt that bridge there. Michael Caine doesn't look bad, but I don't think he's necessarily what we need. But there was one player here, Oliver Johnson, who He's a bit of a weird player, but I kind of like the look of him. Model citizen personality, 20 years old. He's playing for Watford in League One. Got a few goals for them. Not the craziest return, but he's got some really good potential. He's got some weird standout attributes. He's a bit of a weird mould of player, but Oliver could be a solution to a problem. Wants potentially between £4 and £6 million for him, Watford. I don't know how much potential he's got and if he's likely to fulfill it, but I kind of do just like the look of him. He's a bit of a weird player. I feel like it realistically, if I'm not renewing Andy White, which at this point I think it's safe to say we're not, we're probably looking to sign maybe 2 or 3 new strikers. I feel like this guy is one potentially for the future. It could be a good little deal. Okay, I'm going to offer Watford 2.5 million up front, 2.5 million over 12 months. They've come back with an offer here that isn't actually too outrageous. There's a deal to be had here. £6 million isn't cheap, but if he is a big hit, right, if he is a very good English player with his potential and he improves, he is comfortably going to be worth more than £6 million. Like, English players to me are worth a premium. They're also worth a premium to other big clubs out there. It's definitely a gamble of a transfer, but I just like the look of him. He's a bit weird. Like, as a pressing forward on attack, it kind of makes up for some of the glaring weaknesses in his game. He has some really high highs and some very low lows. But I feel like as a backup striking option, he might not be bad. Also, he's got 15 jumping reach. He's almost 2 meters tall. He's a bit of a weapon in the air as well, which we are losing with Andy White going. Okay, our bid for Johnson was accepted there, so we can make a bid here. He wants to be a squad player. I don't really want to promise him that I'm going to up his playing time, but he really wants that promise. I'll tell him that he'll be a regular starter next year. Could potentially be a lie. Wants a yearly wage rise. Wants a wage increase after certain numbers of games played. I mean, I feel like across the board, I am going to be offering players currently at the club more money. Oliver, I'll give you 14,000, 5-year deal. He wants a 4-year deal. Make it 5, Oliver. He's made it 5. He signed the deal. Maybe I'm just clouded by the fact he's got good potential and model citizen personality. I think there's a lot to like about this guy. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not as quick as Rashid. He's not as good attacking-wise as Rashid, but he's a weapon in the air with some good mentals, decent defensively. I think he'll work hard if nothing else. So I have had more of a look through the list of players here just to see what might be available. There's some okay players available, like Murray Campbell, not a bad player by any means, but I feel like rather than jumping into a load of signings and signing players who maybe I could do better than, especially some of these older players I've been looking at, I could really do with now just getting to a point where we're officially a Premier League club and seeing what's out there. Might also just give me an opportunity to try and generate some funds by selling players. Obviously, we've got some players with some decent value. Maybe we can move some of them on. Yeah, maybe that should be my focus. I think I've come to accept the fact that we are going to be the Blackpool, like I mentioned. We are a team that are going to go up to the Premier League, and I feel like maybe 10 years ago in Football Manager, 24 million could buy you Premier League quality. That could buy you safety in the division. As finances in real-world football have changed and been updated in-game, it's definitely more of a challenge. And on top of that, of course, we have the added restriction. I can't just go to South America to find cheap wonder kids that have really good current ability that could help me out. I have to sign English players. We have got some bids here for some of those players I was looking to get rid of. Zach Orr had a £1 million bid from Rivers United in Nigeria. No idea how a Nigerian club has £1 million, to be fair. I don't know. Can Nigerian football clubs afford £1 million? I'm not going to question it. Zach, I'll pay for your flight. Watford as well here have made a bid for George Marsh. I'm going to just be cheeky and just ask for all the money up front. They've accepted that. That is 2 players who were down in the under-21s. We're making more than £1 million on. Life's good. Oliver Johnson set to join the club. £6 million it's worth. We only have to pay 2.5 million this year. Comes in, squad option. Is 6 million a little bit dear? Maybe. Is 2.5 million pounds a bargain? I'd say yes. I really like the look of this guy. I know he's naturally a centre mid and a striker. It's a bit weird he can't play centre attacking mid. I definitely view him as kind of a big meaty striker option for us in the Premier League. He's not going to win any races, but he'll win some jumping battles. Okay, the transfer window opens in a matter of days for us. I've just offered out a few of the more squad players out. Players like Dane Scarlett, Alex Matos, I'm just looking to get £2 million for. And also Corey Gerrard. If I could get a bid in the region of 4 million, I'd probably accept it for this guy just based on the fact I don't think he's ever going to be quite good enough for us, sadly. Right now, Limited interest. I just want to raise a little bit of money if I can. Obviously, first couple of deals we've got done, we've used installments. Installments are great and all, but if we have too many installments added up, it's a lot of money we're suddenly spending month to month. Also, my under-18s manager, Jack here, has just left to become the Wigan manager in League One. This man was my under-21 manager and he's just pissed off. I mean, I'm really happy for him, but at the same time, Wigan, did you need to do that? Apparently, Paul Heckingbottom might be interested in becoming my new under-18s manager. That works for me. He signed a deal for £900. I mean, that's not cheap, but Paul Heckingbottom would be a great little under-18s manager, wouldn't he? My scout reports come back on Daniel Hoey. My scouts really like him. I really like him too. Bristol City want more money now, and there's no guarantee he's even going to want to talk to me. Let's see if he wants to talk. Championship transfer window opens, by the way. It is official. Hopefully now bids start happening. Okay, Hoey's interested in talking to us again. Apparently he's got other interest and more interest in joining Birmingham. Mate, you need to do one. He now wants to be a regular starter and become an important player. You know what, mate? You can have that if you want it. He's now asking for £18,000. Still got that yearly wage rise and all the release clauses. I've learnt my lesson. Look, I'll give you 22.5. How does that sound? He wants 29. I really like the look of this guy, but he is making this bloody painful. Come on, Daniel. Daniel, please. Okay, £26,500. I feel like compared to the rest of my squad, that's an overpay. In the context of, we're now in the Premier League. Less than £30,000 for any Premier League quality player is a bargain. He's on £3,000 currently at Bristol City. Now just have to hope that no one else makes bids for him. If we get Hoey in at centre-back, it leaves me with two starting spots to fill, one of which, admittedly, is another defender. Anton's here, Griffiths here, Ollie Johnson's here as well. Things you love to see. Ollie, by the way, mate, you've got to get quick. So you're going to be just running laps for the next 6 months. Josh Griffiths, by the way, might be the bargain of a century. £35,000 a week for this guy. Look, he might be our third choice goalkeeper. He is great. In a weird way, I feel like I can justify spending £7 million on Caleb, which is probably an overpay, just based on the fact we've got Josh for as cheap as we have. I feel like suddenly we've got 3 goalkeepers to compete, all of which, if I'm not mistaken, I was going to say want to be backups. I think I updated Harry Evans' playing time to first choice. Is he going to be okay with me lowering it? He's gonna be okay with me lowering it. Well, that's good news. Star rating wise, Anton is actually worse than Griffiths, which I'm a little surprised about. Am I going crazy thinking that Caleb's the better goalkeeper? I feel like it's one of those things where when you look at the polygon, Caleb looks better. When you look at the attributes, Josh looks better. But a lot of these mentals and some of these physicals as well, I don't necessarily think are all that important for a goalkeeper versus some of the technicals that Caleb has the edge in. Ajaria is wanted by PSG. Sorry, what? Hello? PSG? Make a bid, please. If I'm not mistaken, I think the French transfer window isn't open yet. But I'll work on... Okay, you know what? It might be open. £9 million! You are taking the piss. I mean, would I sell him for 22 million? I don't even know if I would. 20... The thing is, I probably should. I know he's valued at 22 to 30 million. Ajaria is not that good. Like, he might have mad potential. I'm not convinced he's going to reach it. They probably won't even bid 20 million anyway, will they? I'll ask for a loan back and 20 million. What do they say? They've just withdrawn there. That's unfortunate. I mean, 9 million's nice. Should I have taken 9 million? I feel like we're going to get some bigger offers at some point, surely. He's still got 3 years left on his current deal on £800 a week. He is being scammed. Zakor set to join Rivers United. That is £1 million for a man who played 2 games as a starter for us this year. That feels good. Paul Heckingbottom's joining us as our under-18s manager. More good news there. Look, Hoey, just talk to me. Say you want to join us, and you'll be making me a really happy man now. Everything's going our way suddenly. I keep getting offers here for Dalton Purple. Dalton Purple has okay potential. Has he developed that much since we signed him? He's improved a little bit here and there. We signed him, as you can see here, for 350k. Teams are bidding less than that right now, which is a little bit insulting. Sheffield United, you could have him for £1 million. Yeah, didn't think they'd want him for that. George Marsh is leaving the club to go to Watford. That's 250 grand there. Not big bucks, not going to pretend otherwise, but you know what? He was just going to sit in the under-21, so I can't be mad getting a little bit of money. Sheldon's now been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. not ideal. I mean, if I was going to sell Sheldon, it's going to have to be a mammoth offer because he had a contract option when we got promoted to extend his contract by 3 years, which automatically triggered. So he's contracted for 6 years. I'm not selling him, am I? He is way too good to sell. Oh, great. Damak are now keen on signing him as well. Excellent. Well, Damak, I hope you've got... I was going to say, I hope you've got 50 million. Their bank balance is 50 million. So they do actually have it. New Premier League season draws near. Oh, my word. I can't wait to see who we're going to be playing against in the first game of the year. Daniel Hoey's also joining us. Just confirmed this deal. 2.6 million. Could rise up a little bit more than that, to be fair. We're going to be paying, I think, £8 million over 3 years in installments. That sounds really daunting. If we can stabilise as a Premier League team, we can easily afford all these installments we're paying just through the TV money we get. Even if we get relegated from the Premier League, I think parachute payments will leave us in a situation where we can still afford some of these installments. Obviously, I've now done it for 3 players that we've signed. I maybe need to pace myself a little bit more because Hoey, Johnson and Anton have all been bought using these kind of installments. At the same time, it's enabled me to spend £23 million whilst also still having a lot of transfer budget left. And I really need to make this transfer budget work this year. Hoey, though, I really like as a centre-back. 21 years old. He is absolutely superb. That, by the way, is another new record transfer. The money really is going to my head. If I don't sell Ajaria, do I just play Ajaria at right wing-back this year? Thing is, he's just not Premier League quality and neither is Pinto, but I feel like that applies to so many positions in the team. It's just this is one of the ones where I'm like, maybe I could do better. I mean, the reality is we have been promoted a year or two too early here. It's going to be a really, really tough season. I've kind of accepted that. I'm trying to be quite smart with the signings. Whether or not I've been smart, I'll let you guys be the judge. Some of you are probably thinking that Smart would have been signing Andy White. You might not be wrong. But I feel like just getting a better squad is probably better than getting one better attacker. Leo Shahar here is about to have his contract expire at Newcastle. Is he better than Ajaria? Is he better than Ajaria? I don't know if he's worse than Ajaria. According to my staff, decent Championship player, could be decent Premier League, is injury prone, but he's also consistent. I'll keep an eye on him. Obviously, I've now naturally gone back to looking at players with contracts expiring in 1 month because I missed Shahar earlier and I was just wondering if there's other players out there that I should be making moves for potentially. Charlie Crew here is not bad, but I've got to remember, I'm trying to compete in the Premier League. Haidar Zidane here is an interesting player. He's leaving Manchester United on a free transfer. Iraqi international with 25 caps. He has really good potential, but his current ability is absolutely awful. He's not a bad centre-back. He's not what I need. He's the kind of player I look at and go, he could be a fun punt. But whether or not a player being a fun punt is a reason to sign them, I'm not sure. I mean, he wants to be a breakthrough player. He wants a relegation release clause. I will have to pay Man United 1.1 million in compensation. Is he worth 1.1 million as a punt? Part of me feels like he might be, but part of me also feels like this is not what I need to be doing right now. I feel like my best bet is wait for him to be a free agent, then I don't have to pay Manchester United compensation. Championship season review is in. We have earned the title of overachievers. We'll take that. Amari Hutchinson, by the way, average rating 7.41, the best in the division. I'm hoping that as a left-back, he can keep doing that in the Premier League. Feel like that might be a taller order and maybe teams will target him more. But you know what? We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We didn't get signing of the season, although Sheldon was runner-up. And actually, Al Hamadi and also Will Lancashire here, who we also looked at. They were 2 players that we looked at signing, weren't they, last year, and they didn't want to join me. But I could have signed those 2. Anyway, the leaderboard has now popped up. That means a new season is upon us. If we have not got a media prediction of 20th, I will be somewhat shocked here. Board expectation, attempt to avoid relegation. They won't even let me move that. Does give me some solace to the fact that if I can't stay up this year, maybe I won't be fired. Club profile, media prediction, 20th. Yeah, that is somewhat predictable, isn't it? First game of the year, by the way, is Arsenal away. We've also got Manchester United and Spurs in our first 5 games of the year. And Brighton away, which is never easy. Arsenal away, a trip to the Emirates, first game of the year. It's only 42 days away. Probably should set up some friendlies, really, shouldn't I? Some teams would set up pre-season friendlies in this situation against Premier League clubs to test themselves. I've decided we're just going to play loads of the non-league teams in London. Just going to try and get confidence as high as I can before we get spanked all year. We broke our average attendance record last year, 9,222 fans in attendance. That's quite close to the sellout at Brisbane Road. The sooner we move into the new stadium, the better. I was kind of hoping that maybe we'd rent a new stadium for the year, but seems like we're going to be waiting for the new ground. But at least to cushion the blow that will be a financial blow of this new stadium and probably all the new wages and transfers we're doing, we are going to receive £80.5 million in Premier League TV money. I'll tell you what, Premier League teams just have too much money, don't they? We are at the moment still waiting for Omari Hutchinson to officially sign for us. He's still in on loan for 5 more days. I'll tell you what, he must feel quite lucky to have hopped away from Ipswich. Of course, they were relegated last year. They finished 8th. In their first season in the Championship. He got the loan to us. He's been promoted back to the Premier League. I kind of look at their team and wonder, have they got any more players they want to loan me? I suspect they've probably learned their lesson. Now that we've been promoted, the list of players interested in joining me has suddenly got a whole lot longer. Annoyingly, a lot of them have got very unreasonable wage expectations, but maybe there's some good players in here. I think I have got to set a wage limit here on these players I'm looking at 25,000. There's a lot of players showing up that I definitely cannot afford. I'll tell you what, one player who would be a crazy signing to pick up would be Mikey Moore if he developed in this save game. I'll tell you what, this guy can be an absolute baller in Football Manager, has crazy potential. I feel like he very rarely reaches it. He's definitely not done it here, has he? Annoyingly, now that I'm looking at players with wages at most £25,000 just sorted by ability, all the top players are goalkeepers. Because of course they are. I suppose the good news is when I look at someone like Oliver Dovin, whilst he's a good goalkeeper, when I compare him with Caleb Anson, his demands in terms of the transfer fee and probably the wages as well, mean that Anson looks like a very good deal still. Sam Taylor here was just relegated with Nottingham Forest. He's got good current ability, great potential. His value's not bad either. I guess that's a release clause? Yeah, relegation release clause. Annoyingly, he's a right winger. I don't play with wingers, otherwise he'd be a really good signing. Zach Willis here would not be a bad little depth centre-back option. In fact, you can see here, my scouts think he's probably better than Edmondson and JJ. Not sure I agree with that, although now I'm curious to compare. Yeah, he's not as good as JJ, is he? I was looking at him as a good value proposition for a few million, but JJ's actually quite a good centre-back. I mean, at the moment, we are looking for a new centre-back option, and Mbete has been our go-to left centre-back player. He is just not good enough. In many ways, with his valuation, I should probably just be seeing if we can get any bids for him. But what I was about to loop back to is the idea that maybe JJ could still just be our centre-back next year. The 23-year-old's not bad. The only issue is he's not left-footed. It would leave me with 3 right-footed centre-backs. I still feel like, you know, a new defender's the way to go. JJ as a sub-option, as that first reserve at centre-back would be great, especially because he can play at centre defensive mid and centre mid as well, and he is just so well-rounded. But if I can't find anyone new to sign, I don't hate him as an option. Turns out centre-backs who are left-footed, not maybe the easiest player to find. Although, Arian B, oh my word, the amount of save games I've used this man in over the years, I absolutely love him. Partially English, I already know that. Plays for Hearts, he's on £6,000 a week. How much would he want to come to us? 22,000. Would want some release clauses. Hearts one in the region of 9.2 million because of a release clause he's got. He's very good. I do feel like he's better than JJ as well. Better in the air, quicker, good vision. He's 26 as well. Oh, Arian B's, he would be very good. So he's got this minimum release clause. Is there a world where they would accept a bid of more than the release clause using installments? Like if I offer them 10 million, but with installments, are they going to just tell me to do one? Oh, they are. 9 million is expensive for him, but his wages are affordable. And he is a very good centre-back. I'll slide them a cheeky offer of 11 million. I know they're probably going to reject that because they want the money up front. He would definitely be an option, though. I did also spot Lloyd Kelly here, but I know in real life he's had a lot of issues with injuries, and I assume he's injury-prone in game, although maybe he's not. Is he as good as Arian B? He's nowhere near as good. That physical advantage in the speed is massive, and also Arian B's great with the ball at his feet. Lewis Binks here isn't bad, but he's just not as good as Arian B. And I have now just looked through all the left-footed centre-back options. Arian B is comfortably a level above. I mean, our remaining transfer budget is 20 million. Would spending 9 million of it on him be the worst idea in the world? I don't think it would be. Carl Flood wants a new contract, mate. I can't afford it. Okay, you know what? That made him go away. I'm happy. Hearts rejected our bid of £11 million in instalments. I'm tempted just to trigger the release clause. I want to see what his wage demands are, but if it's like as cheap as I think it could be, he is probably the biggest no-brainer signing ever. Super consistent, well-rounded, 26 years old. I'd hope that I can get him without him having to have a release clause in his contract as well. We'll see how things go here. He wants to be a regular starter should Hoey leave the club. Mate, you're going to be a regular starter immediately. It's not exactly the self-belief you want to see in players, is it? Put in a release clause and a minimum release clause. We're going to remove them. I want a 5-year deal. £25,000 I think is fair. I'll give you a decent signing on fee. This is a decent amount of my budget going on a single player. But I feel like this is the left centre-back we've craved for a while. His wages are getting a little higher than I want them to be right now. For context, Hoey signed for us on 26,500. I feel like I might not be able to negotiate that here, but we will do our absolute utmost. I'll give him a new sub bonus because I think he's going to be starting most games for us. And if we avoid relegation from the Premier League, he can have 200k. How does that sound? The wage demands are killing me. I'll go 27,500. He says 33. I'll go 28. Is there any way we can meet in the middle? He goes 32. £30,000. He's gone back up to 33. I don't want to lose him over £1,000. He asked for 32 earlier, so I'll offer that back. Those wages are not cheap, but £9 million isn't cheap either. Obviously, we tried 11 million with clauses. It didn't work out. I really like him as a centre-back option for us. I need a top-quality left-footed centre-back. I need depth at centre-back anyway, in terms of signing more players. He offers that for us. I've also noticed the star ratings have updated. Have you noticed that? All the star ratings have kind of been squished down. Now it's all relative to Premier League players and stuff. It makes us look a lot worse than we are. I believe in us still, I think. I keep getting bids for Dalton Purple still. Obviously, we signed him from Derby for 350k. Teams are barely offering more than that after a year of development. Plymouth, you can have him for £1 million. Yeah, didn't think they'd bid that. No offers for Mbete is a little bit unfortunate. I was hoping that with his outrageous valuation, someone might be willing to overpay. Hasn't happened. I'm going to offer him out for £5.5 million and transfer list him. He's good. If I'm signing Arian B for £8 million, selling Mbete here for 5.5 would be the steal of a century. I think the thing I really like about all our signings at the moment as well is I feel like even if we were to get relegated, they hopefully would stay. I'd like to think that not many of them would try and force moves away from the club. Now, maybe you could point at that and say, well, that's a reason not to have them. That means they're not good enough for the Premier League. But certainly someone like Daniel Hoey, even if we go down, if we keep him in the Championship, he will just be top quality. And I feel like these kind of players would help us just bounce back up immediately. Ipswich have made an offer for Flood. It's not a good offer. He isn't interested. I'm not interested either, so that works out. Arian B's agreed to join us. He rejected a new contract offer from Hearts. He wants to play for us in the Premier League. I feel like that's just a good deal. They only signed him for 1.9 million. They're getting crazy profit off him. I know his performances for Hearts haven't been that good, but I have faith in him. It's an overpay, probably, but I need a left-footed centre-back. He's comfortably the best out there. No release clause if we get relegated. Wage demand's not outrageous. Welcome to the club. Anyone with the first name Bright is good in my eyes. Regular starter who can improve, potential to be a decent Premier League player. That's good enough for me. And all of a sudden, for a starting 11 in the Premier League, no, I don't hate it. I'm not going to pretend it's great, but I don't hate it. I think that's good enough, at least compared to where we started today. My total spending in today's episode, annoyingly, it's spread over 2 screens because Football Manager doesn't have the technology to group transfers. But our total spend here is comfortably over £30 million. You can't say I'm not taking it seriously trying to stay up in the Premier League this year. And on top of that, still £11 million of transfer budget and plenty of wage budget surplus too. Have a sneaking suspicion, though, that could end up changing in tomorrow's episode. That's right, don't you worry. It might be Boxing Day tomorrow. There might be 8 hours of football tomorrow. There will also be Parks the Prem tomorrow too. I have just quickly here to end the episode today blocked out what I would consider our best starting 11 and best bench setup if the start of the season was tomorrow. I think it goes without saying, alongside Oliver Johnson, we're probably going to need another goal scorer. Dane Scarlett's good, he's not Premier League quality good. I'm hoping that someone might make a bid for him so I can make some money. I feel like in tomorrow's episode, we need to get a backup striker, maybe a little bit more depth at centre attacking mid, although I do want to try and give game time this year to Niall Townsend. I suppose you guys can let me know in the comments what you would do if you were me. I do feel like this is a super challenging transfer window. I feel like, obviously, with the wage restrictions we have, with the transfer budget that we have, we've tried to make it work and tried to stretch it far. But even with the new additions we've made, I'd be lying if I was to say I'm particularly confident in us staying up this year. But you know what? I've been pessimistic before and we've overperformed. And given the fact that we did well against bigger teams, maybe we can continue to upset the odds going into next year. Today is the last day ever where Andy White will be listed as our key player. His loan expires tomorrow. And you know what? I said today could be a white Christmas. It's no longer a white Christmas. We're going to continue to the point where he's leaving the club to end things today. Hutchinson signs for us. That's good. Permanent signing confirmed. Where is he? Where's the boy gone? Oh, he's still here. Well, that's awkward. Will it continue a few more times? He will leave us tomorrow. I promise he's about to leave. Andy White loan finishes. There is tears in my eyes. In a weird way, if a team wants to buy him from Burnley and pay the active non-promotion release clause, that would probably be kind of nice. That would give me £14 million to spend. Anyway, gang, we are going to leave things there for today. I hope you had a lovely Christmas. Hopefully you have a Merry New Year and all that good stuff. We're back tomorrow, Boxing Day, Transfer Special Part 2. I need to make signings. I think some people are going to hate the Arian B signing. I think it's sensible. Please be kind in the comments. It's Christmas. I'll see you tomorrow.